Hello everyone, my name is Valentine. You probably guessed why they call me that. Yes, that's right, in honor of the freaking Valentine's Day. My grandma was such a hopeless romantic, she thought it was nice to name her grandson in honor of such a wonderful holiday. But now I have to suffer with this name and hate it, just like this stupid holiday. Well, okay, that's not what I wanted to tell you about. Shortly speaking, I'm a person who always tries to avoid trouble, in order not to get into arguments. I don't even talk to people. Yes, I have no friends, and I don't need them. I immediately choose an attitude for myself. No people, no problems. My mom thinks the same way. Maybe my father thought so too. That's why he ran away from us several years ago. I'm not sure. Well, generally speaking, it's easier to live this way. In all other respects, I was like everybody else. I went to school, ate food, drank. As you understand, my mom and I are together all the time. We have one favorite hobby together. We love watching movies on weekends, while consuming a lot of snacks. I just love this hobby of ours. I always loved detectives very much. I liked how the main characters were able to think, how they cleverly investigate certain crimes and then suddenly reveal the identity of the criminals. And all this is so unexpected and cool. I dreamed of becoming a cool detective or investigator in the future. It seemed to me that this was my calling. Plus, I heard the salaries are good. Mom supported my choice, and as always, she was my only close friend, a person who supported me for all 100%. I went to a local school. I didn't really like it. I was annoyed by the education system. This inequality, which manifested itself in the fact that if you're rich, then you're an excellent student, and if you're poor, then go figure it out. This is justice? I think not. Even in the movies, when one of the rich dies, everyone immediately rushes to look for him, like this is an important person. But if a poor stranger dies, nobody cares. People do not even sympathize with such families. And I was thinking about these things during the first class. We're all suddenly gathered for an unexpected school meeting in the gym. The news we heard there shocked everyone. Turns out that our classmate Darla Spring was dead. Wow, we were all simply shocked. She hadn't shown up in school for more than 2 weeks, and we all thought that she was just skipping classes. And when we saw the police at school, we thought that maybe she just left somewhere. And today we were told that she had died because of some rumors. I was able to find out more details. Turns out Darla's belongings were found in the river. The night before, they found her dress, one shoe, and a belt. And a couple of kilometers away, they found her bag, which held a note saying that she was saying goodbye to life and asking not to blame anyone. Her mother had a nervous breakdown. Of course, the most terrible thing is to bury a person without knowing where the body is. Yes, the girl's body had not been found. Our policemen and volunteers searched everything. There was a version of that body was carried far away by the current. The problem was that it was very cold. The first snow came and it was almost impossible to work in such conditions. Her parents buried an empty coffin. It was all very sad. After the funeral, I went to the place where they found her things. I became curious to see the area. I didn't think the police did a bad job, but I noticed something that they didn't see. I found a dirty, semi-wet, damp diary. Yes, it was her diary. I quickly hid it in my bag, came home, and began to study it. There were many notes that Darla had a difficult life. Darla just loved being alone. There was no one else in her family whom she was close. She lived with her parents in a poor neighborhood, and her father was a tyrant. He did not let her out anywhere and did not allow her to talk to anyone. Maybe that's why she grew up kind of alienated. Throughout the diary, she shared her problems with her father, wrote that she was very tired of his pressure. Her mother tried to protect her in every possible way, but she also got it from him. They never had guests at home. It was always them and no one else. Then my mom abruptly entered the room and I hid the diary and pretended to be studying. I finished reading my discovery completely only a few days later. But the most interesting thing is that the last note was made literally the day before her death and did not look like the girl was about to die. Some things didn't fit and it intrigued me. One day I found a familiar name, Robert, in her diary. She mentioned him in the context of her best friend, even though I knew she had no friends. I also knew one Robert. This guy used to go to our school and graduated years ago. I met him in the bathroom when we hit my nose on the door. He just opened the door on accident, and when I was standing right next to it, Robert excused himself and left, while I wiped the blood off my new white t-shirt. And by the way, this is not useless information. So, do you know what happened next? After finishing the diary, I realized that some things did not fit, and then I began to think, would a person who is suicidal be talking so cheerfully about their last day? I had a feeling that Darla didn't want to die. The only way to check was to go to her house and chat with her parents. I knew they were vulnerable, but nevertheless, I needed to take advantage of this. I came to their house pretending that I wanted to support them, meanwhile asking about Darla's behavior in the last days. Her mom said that she was not in a good mood, often cried and cursed at her father. I asked if Darla had any friends, and her mother said no. Her dad was not home, and I went up to her room to look at everything. There were no pictures, no stuffed toy girls usually had. However, I did find something. Among Darla's things that her mom had a collection of to get rid of, I found a familiar shoe. Exactly the same one was lying along the things found in the river. How could a girl go to the river in just one boot? It seemed strange. Once again, I looked closely at her diary back home and noticed that she also wrote something about North Carolina. She was kind of thinking about how good life was there. I remembered that Robert lived in North Carolina. After graduating, he was going to return there to continue his dad's business. My puzzle was starting to take shape in my head, but I didn't want to voice anything yet. I found Robert online, looked at his pictures, and Googled the approximate area of his residence. Over the weekend, I went looking for him. It was a different state, so I had to beg my mom to let me go. I arrived there only the next day and found the approximate area and began to show a photo of Robert so that people would tell me where his house was. Surprisingly, I did it in just a few hours. Yes, I found his home. I immediately went to visit him, introduced myself as his old school friend, and his parents invited me for some tea. Robert was not home, and I decided to ask about him. They said that he was doing well, and that now he was helping his father with his work. I didn't know anything about him, so I just asked how his girlfriend was doing. Ooh, she's just so cute. Everything seems to be serious with them. He promised to introduce us to her later, and we don't even know her name. We only know that she's an orphan and that she's very kind, his mother said. I asked where he might be now, and they said that he was probably at his friend's Beals and gave me the address. I arrived there an hour later. Approaching the house, I heard a familiar voice. It was Robert. He was saying something about the weather and hot dogs. "Yes, you always want to eat at the wrong time," said a loud female voice. I saw Darla bringing food to Robert on a tray. The fresh hot dogs in the cold looked like they were smoking. She gave him food and kissed him on the lips, and then she suddenly ran into the house. Robert saw me through the open door and asked how he could help. Then he recognized me, and he got scared. Honestly, I got scared too. I was at a loss and did not know what to do next. All he said was, "If anyone finds out, Darla will shoot both her and me. And we love each other," he said shortly and clearly. I stood in silence and then asked what he intended to do. Robert said that he rented an apartment for her, and he was going to marry her, and he was making new documents for her. She wanted to start a new life herself. Darla appeared outside. When she saw me, I said that I was just lost. She showed me the way to the bus stop and hugged Robert. Darla was different. She was so happy with him. I saw it in her eyes. So I just left. I went back home, and all the way back I thought about what to do, but I decided to just leave everything as it is. However, the parents are still so sad over her. This is the story I wanted to share with you. Yes, guys, even these things happened in real life. I'm not one to judge, but maybe a girl like her really likes such a life. What do you think? Should I tell anyone about them? If you liked the story, then please give it a thumbs up and leave us some comments. Don't forget to subscribe.